Velsira opened her eyes slowly. The room was quiet but cold and empty. The only sound was a soft hum from machines she could not understand. She looked around, her body weak, her mind foggy. She remembered the crash, the Great War on her planet. Zethari? She was on a ship, a bioarc, carrying her people's last hope. But something went wrong. The ship's systems failed, and everyone else was gone. Only she was left. Velsira tried to move, but pain stopped her. She was alone, trapped in silence. She thought she was going to die. In her people's stories, humans were fierce and cruel. She feared the worst. Suddenly the door hissed open. A figure stepped inside. He was tall, with pale skin and bright eyes that shone with kindness, not hate. His clothes were simple, and he moved carefully, not like a hunter. Who are you?" Velsira asked in a weak voice. The man smiled gently. "My name is Aiden Caldwell. I am a human. Don't be afraid." Velsira's heart raced. She had heard terrible stories about humans. They were said to eat their enemies, especially those who could read minds like her. She braced herself, preparing for pain. But Aiden did not attack. Instead, he held out a small cup. It was filled with a warm liquid, steaming softly. "Drink," he said. "It's tea. It will help you feel better." Velsira looked at the cup suspiciously. Could she trust this human? Her body was weak, her thirst strong. Slowly, she took the cup and drank. The warm liquid spread through her, easing the cold inside her chest. She closed her eyes and let out a soft sigh. But the pain in her head lessened. The strange warmth comforted her. Aiden sat near her, not too close, but near enough to be friendly. He looked at her with curiosity and care. Velsira tried to speak again. "Why did you save me? Why not kill me like others do?" Aiden shook his head. "I do not want to hurt you. I found your ship drifting in space. I am a scientist. I help lost travelers. You are not my enemy." Velsira's mind was still confused. She wanted to believe him, but had been betrayed before. She looked at the small cabin on the ship Caldwell's Venture, where she now rested. It was simple, but clean and safe. There were plants in pots, books stacked neatly, and a small device that made soft music. For the first time in days, Velsira felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Days passed slowly. Aiden cared for her gently. He spoke softly, using pictures and simple words to communicate. Velsira tried to understand. She learned that Aiden was an explorer who traveled the stars, searching for lost stories and cultures. His mission was to find survivors of dead worlds and help them keep their histories alive. Velsira was amazed. No human had ever shown such kindness to her people before. Most thought her kind was weak or dangerous. One evening, as the stars twinkled outside the ship's window, Aiden offered her another cup of tea. "This is called chamomile," he said. "It helps calm the mind." Velsira took the cup. She smelled the sweet, soft scent. It reminded her of home, the flower fields of Zet-Hari. Slowly. Velsira began to trust him. She told him stories of her world, using images and sounds she could share through her empathic link. Aiden listened carefully, fascinated by the music and colors she painted with her mind. He shared Earth stories in return, showing her pictures of great forests, oceans, and people from many countries. Velsira realized humans were not the monsters she had feared. They were curious, caring, and full of surprises. One night, she sat beside Aiden, watching the stars move in the sky. "Will you help me find others?" she asked softly. Aiden smiled. "Yes, together we can bring their stories back to life." Velsira felt warmth fill her chest. She no longer felt alone or afraid. She had expected the human to eat her, but instead, he showed her pleasure, the joy of friendship, hope, and new beginnings. Velsira's body was stronger now. The warmth of the tea and Aiden's gentle care helped her heal, but her mind still raced with questions. She did not understand humans or their strange ways. Aiden noticed her worry, wanted to help, but words were not easy. Their languages were very different. Velsira spoke in soft sounds and feelings. Aiden used spoken words and strange symbols. One morning, Aiden brought a small box. Inside were colored leaves shaped like little pictures. "These are tea leaves," he said, smiling. "Each type has a story." Valsera watched as he carefully placed the leaves in a pot and poured hot water over them. The steam rose in soft curls, and the scent filled the small room. Aiden handed her a cup. "Try this one. It's called jasmine." Valsera sipped slowly. The taste was sweet and fresh. She closed her eyes and felt calm. Aiden spoke slowly, showing her pictures he had drawn on thin paper. They were simple drawings: a tree, a sun, a hand reaching out. "This is Earth," he said. "We live here." Valsera pointed to one, drawing a circle with lines coming out like rays. "Sun," she said softly. Aiden nodded. "Yes, the sun gives us light and warmth." She smiled. The small images helped her understand. Words were hard, but pictures were easy. For days they played this game, drawing pictures and tasting new teas. Each tea had a special meaning. Some were for joy, others for peace. Valsera learned to watch Aiden's face closely. When he smiled, the tea was good. When he frowned, it was bitter or sad. Aiden learned too. He watched her eyes, her body, her soft sounds. He tried to copy her movements. One afternoon, Aiden showed Valsera a book. It was old and worn with many pictures inside. "This is a storybook," he said. "Stories help us remember who we are." Valsera turned the pages slowly. There were pictures of animals, trees, and people. The pictures told a story without words. She felt a new feeling, pleasure in learning, in sharing, in connecting. That night, Valsera dreamed of her home planet. She saw the green forests and blue rivers. She heard the music of her people, soft and deep. When she woke, Aiden was waiting with a cup of tea and a warm smile. "Tell me about your music," he said. Valsera nodded and closed her eyes. She sent him soft sounds, low humming, and rising notes. It was her people's way of sharing feelings. Aiden listened quietly, eyes closed. Then he smiled. "That is beautiful," he said. "Music is a language too." Valsera felt happy. For the first time, she thought maybe humans and aliens could understand each other. Days passed, and their friendship grew. Valsera learned about earth plants, animals, and people. Aiden learned about Zethari's history and culture. Valsera told Aiden about the Great War that destroyed her world. She shared her fear of loneliness and loss. Aiden listened, never judging. He told her about Earth's own hard times, wars, storms, and people who lost everything but still hoped. Valsera realized humans were not so different from her own people. They felt pain and joy. They dreamed of peace. One evening, as the stars shone bright, Valsera and Aiden stood on the deck of the ship. The sky was full of tiny lights, distant stars, other worlds. Valsera pointed to one star and whispered, "That was my home." Aiden nodded. "We will find others like you." Together, Valsera smiled. For the first time since the crash, she felt hope. She had expected fear and pain. Instead, she found friendship and peace. And she knew their journey was just beginning. Valsera had learned much from Aiden. She now understood more about Earth and humans than ever before. The teas, the stories, the quiet moments, they had opened a new door inside her, but something deeper still puzzled her. Valsera was an empath, a person who could feel others' emotions like her own. When she was near Aiden, she sometimes caught small waves of feelings: curiosity, sadness, hope. These feelings were strange, but beautiful. They were like colors painted on canvas she could see without eyes. One day, while the ship floated near a quiet star system, Valsera sat beside Aiden in the small cabin. The soft light from a window made the room warm. Aiden was reading a thin book. It was called The Little Prince. Valsera had heard him say the name before. She watched as he turned the pages slowly, his eyes bright. "What is this story?" she asked softly. Aiden smiled. "It is a story about a small prince who travels between planets. It teaches about love, friendship, and seeing with the heart." Valsera nodded. She liked the sound of that. She reached out, touching the books. worn pages with delicate fingers. "May I try?" she asked. Aiden nodded and handed her the book. Velsira looked at the pictures. They were simple drawings: a little boy, a fox, a rose. She did not understand all the words, but she felt something else. She closed her eyes, and focused through her empathic gift. She tried to taste the thoughts behind the story. It was not just words, it was feelings, memories, hopes. Aiden watched carefully. "You can feel the story?" he asked, surprised. "Yes," Velsira said. "It is like tasting thought." Aiden smiled wider. "That is wonderful." They spent many hours like this. Aiden read stories slowly, and Velsira listened with her mind and heart. Each story was a new world, full of wonder, pain, joy, and hope. One evening, Velsira shared her own story with Aiden. She sang softly, sending him a song from Zethari. The music was not only sound, but a wave of color and light felt inside the mind. Aiden closed his eyes, letting the music wash over him. When the song ended, he whispered, "Your music is beautiful. It feels like a warm light." Velsira smiled. She had never heard such kind words before. She realized something important. Humans and Zetharians could share more than words or pictures. They could share feelings and dreams. The next day, Velsira stood near the ship's window, watching the stars. She thought about her people, the lost voices of Zethari. She wanted to help them, to keep their stories alive. Aiden joined her. "We will find them," he said gently. Velsira looked at him. "How?" she asked. "We will search," Aiden said. "Were stories, songs, and friendship?" Velsira nodded. "It will be hard. Many are lost." "Yes," Aiden agreed. "But we will not give up." That night, Velsira dreamed again. She dreamed of her planet's forests, rivers, and skies. She dreamed of her people's laughter and tears. She dreamed of a new future, one where humans and aliens could share their worlds, their stories, and their hearts. When she woke, she felt stronger. She looked at Aiden, who was preparing tea. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" he asked. "For showing me a new way," Velsira said. Aiden smiled. "That is what friends do," Velsira smiled back. She had expected fear and loneliness instead. She found friendship and hope, and she knew their journey had only just begun. The small ship Caldwell's Venture drifted quietly through the endless black of space. Velsira stood by the window, watching the stars shine like distant candles in the dark. She thought about the future, a future uncertain but full of hope. Aiden sat nearby, quietly working on a small device. He had spent days trying to fix an old translator, hoping it would help them speak more clearly. Velsira watched him with curiosity. This human was unlike anyone she had ever met, patient, kind, and full of strange ideas about helping others. Finally, Aiden looked up, smiling. "Velsira, I have something to show you." He handed her a thin tablet that glowed softly with light. On the screen, strange symbols moved and changed. "This is the Universal Archive," Aiden said. "Holds stories, art, and memories from many worlds, even those lost long ago." Velsira's eyes widened. "You collect stories? For what purpose?" Aiden nodded. "To remember, to learn, to share." Velsira thought of her people, the Zethari lost in the Great War. Their songs, their dances, their history, all almost forgotten. She felt a sharp pain in her heart. "I thought survival meant hiding," she said quietly. "But you show me another way." "Yes," Aiden said. "Survival is not only living. It is sharing, growing, teaching." Velsira looked at the stars again. "Will you help me find others like me?" Aiden smiled warmly. "That is why I am here." The next day, they set a course for a nearby dead moon. Once sacred to the Zethari, Velsira told Aiden stories of the moon, how it was a place of peace, where her people danced beneath the twin moons of her planet. When they landed, the surface was silent and cold. Dust covered the ruins of ancient temples and statues. Velsira stepped carefully. Her heart heavy, she placed her hand on a broken stone. Memories filled her mind, echoes of laughter, music, and light. Aiden watched quietly, respecting her silence. Velsira turned to him. "I want to share this. Teach others what was lost." Aiden nodded. "We will bring your memories to the archive, so no one will forget." Together, they collected relics. Pieces of stone carved with ancient songs, crystals that held light, and drawings etched in dust. Back on the ship, Velsira taught Aiden how to see music, how her people wove colors and shapes into sound. Aiden listened with wonder, trying to imagine the beauty she described. In return, Aiden shared stories from Earth's tales of cities, forests, and oceans where people lived and dreamed. Velsira realized how much she had to learn. She had expected humans to be fierce and cruel, but instead, she found a friend willing to listen and learn. That night, under the soft glow of distant stars, Velsira looked at Aiden and said, "Thank you for showing me this pleasure, the joy of giving." Aiden smiled. "We are stronger together." They sat quietly, the universe around them vast and full of promise. Velsira felt something new, a sense of purpose. Together, they would find the lost voices of the galaxy. Together, they would make sure no story was ever forgotten. And so, the journey continued, two souls bound by hope, sharing the pleasure of stars. The Caldwell's venture sailed silently through the stars. Velsira stood on the deck, her eyes bright with hope. The journey had changed her. She was no longer the frightened survivor she once was. She had found something precious, a new way to live. Aiden joined her, holding a small box filled with tiny crystals. "These are memory stones," he said. "They store feelings, sounds, and images. We can use them to share your people's stories with the galaxy." Velsira's eyes widened. "You can do that?" Aiden smiled. "Yes, it is one way to bring the past back to life." Velsira nodded slowly. She felt a warm joy inside. The thought of her people's songs, dances, and stories reaching others made her heart sing. They landed on a planet known as Librera, a world covered by huge, glowing trees that held ancient knowledge. The trees' leaves shimmered like glass, and their roots carried stories from one branch to another. Velsira was amazed. The planet was like a living library. Aiden led her to a large clearing where a group of beings from many worlds gathered. They were storytellers, artists, and keepers of lost histories. Velsira felt nervous, but also excited. One of the beings, a tall creature with soft blue skin, smiled kindly. "Welcome, Velsira. We have heard your song even before you arrived." Velsira smiled back. She felt accepted. Together with the storytellers, Velsira placed the memory stones inside a large crystal pedestal. The stones began to glow softly, playing her people's music and images in the air. The crowd watched in awe as the colors danced and the music filled the clearing. Velsira saw tears and smiles. Her people's culture was alive again. Aiden squeezed her hand gently. "See, this is the pleasure of giving, sharing your history, your joy, your pain with others. It is a gift not only to them but to yourself." Velsira nodded, feeling a deep happiness. Realized this was more than survival. It was revival. Over the days, Velsira taught the others about her music, her dances, and the art of empathy. She showed them how her people felt sound and light as one. Aiden learned too. He asked many questions and tried to understand. One afternoon, Velsira sat beneath a giant glowing tree. She closed her eyes and let the tree's stories wash over her. The tree's memories were old and deep. They spoke of hope, peace, and the power of connection. She opened her eyes and looked at Aiden. "We must keep sharing, so others will never forget." Aiden smiled warmly. "Together we will." Velsira thought about her journey from a frightened survivor to a storyteller, a teacher, and a friend. She remembered the fear she felt when she first met Aiden. She had expected to be eaten or hurt. Instead, she was given kindness and a chance to live again. She touched Aiden's arm softly. "Thank you for showing me this pleasure." Aiden looked at her with gentle eyes. "Thank you for trusting me." Their friendship had grown stronger. With each passing day, the stars outside shone brightly, promising endless journeys ahead. Velsira knew their work was far from over. Many voices were still lost in the silence of space, but now she was ready, ready to bring light where there was darkness, ready to share stories where there was silence, and most of all, ready to give and receive pleasure, the joy of understanding and connection. As the Caldwell's venture lifted off from Librera, Valsera looked at the stars and whispered, "For my people." For all lost voices, Aidan smiled. For the future. Together they sailed into the unknown, two travelers, bound by hope, carrying the pleasure of giving. The Caldwell's venture glided softly through the vast, star-filled sky. Valsera stood by the window, her eyes tracing the glittering stars. Each star was a new hope, a new chance. Her journey had been long and full of learning, but she knew it was only the beginning. Aidan sat nearby, quietly working on the ship's controls. He looked up and smiled when he saw her watching the stars. "Where to next?" he asked gently. Valsera thought for a moment. "We must find more survivors. More voices to add to the stories." Aidan nodded. "Then we will search until we find them." Valsera's heart was light. The fear she once carried was gone. She had found something greater than survival connection. Days passed as they traveled through strange new systems. The stars outside were like sparkling jewels against the darkness. Each new planet was a mystery waiting to be uncovered. One day the ship's sensors picked up a faint signal, a soft song drifting through space. It was different from the sounds Valsera had heard before, gentle, hopeful, and full of life. Valsera's eyes widened. That is a song of hope." Aidan smiled. "Let's follow it." They set a course toward the source, the ship, moving smoothly through the endless black. When they arrived, Valsera saw a small green planet with wide oceans and shining forests. The air was fresh, and the sky was painted with soft purple clouds. They landed near a village where beings of many shapes and colors lived peacefully. Valsera stepped out of the ship, her heart pounding. The villagers greeted them with smiles and curiosity. One of the elders, a gentle being with shimmering silver skin, approached Valsera. "We have waited for you," the elder said softly. Valsera smiled, feeling warmth spread through her. Together, they shared stories, songs, and dances beneath the glowing moons. Valsera taught the villagers how to use memory stones to keep their histories alive. Aidan helped fix their ancient technology so their stories could reach beyond their world. Days turned into weeks, and Valsera felt joy growing inside her. She was no longer alone. She was part of a new family, one built from hope, friendship, and the pleasure of giving. One evening, as the twin moons rose high, Valsera stood beside Aidan, looking out over the village. "Thank you," she whispered, "for showing me a new way." Aidan smiled. "Thank you for trusting me." Their journey had begun with fear and uncertainty, but now it was filled with light and promise. Valsera looked at the stars again, feeling a deep peace she had expected. To be eaten, to be lost forever. Instead, she was given kindness, friendship, and the chance to begin again. Together, Valsera and Aidan lifted off into the sky, ready to bring the pleasure of hope to every corner of the galaxy. Their story was not just about survival, it was about new beginnings, and the stars would always shine to guide them.